Okay, we're going to do a quick review of where we're at. So here we're looking at our different layers of muscles that we've learned. So we start from the outside, we have our epimysium, and that is going to cover up a bunch of fascicles, right? And these fascicles are covered in perimysium, and the fascicles are made up of a bunch of myocytes. So you take a bunch of myocytes and you wrap them in perimysium. You have a bunch of those fascicles, and that is wrapped in epimysium. Okay, and then we dove deeper, right? The myocyte we know is made up of a bunch of these fibers, these strings called myofibrils. So we're going to the myofibril, so our myocytes are bundles of myofibrils. Okay, so when we look, so here's a bundle of myofibrils that make up a myocyte, and we're going to look at an individual segment called a sarcomere. Okay, and each myofibril is wrapped in these tubules called the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and on here we've got one that has the tubules still on it, and then we've got some that it's been taken off, so that we can see the sarcomeres. And in that too we find the mitochondria is wrapped in that sarcoplasmic reticulum, and remember the mitochondria are supplying the ATP that we need in order for our muscles to contract. Okay, so now we're going to look at one sarcomere. So here we've got a sarcomere, right? And a bunch of them make up a myofibril, and a bunch of myofibrils make up a myocyte. So we're going to just look at a sarcomere. So we've got actin, which is our thin filaments, and myosin, which is our thick filaments. And again, actin, thin filaments, and myosin is thick filaments. And on the myosin, we have these myosin heads. And those myosin heads, when it's like cocked like this, it is in its low energy state. And when it's pulled back, I'm thinking about pulling a rubber band back, it's in its high energy state. And when it's high energy state, it has something called ADP and a phosphate attached to it. ADP is adenosine diphosphate. And we're used to ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. That third phosphate is right here. It just puts us in a high energy state when it's broken down like that. Okay, so we've circled these on our models already before. But what we're looking to do is that actin and myosin just need to slide past each other. Okay, so we're gonna pull that actin past the myosin using those myosin heads. Okay, and we're going to run through that and how it's done in something called the sliding filament theory. Okay, there's a video, you can watch it. We're not going to watch it now. We're going to skip that, but you can go back and watch that to give yourself more of a view of it. We're going to just go through each of the steps. Okay, so our first step is we need a message to go from our brain and spinal cord. It's going to send a message through our peripheral nervous system to whatever motor neuron that's attached to the muscle. So if I want to catch this ball, okay, my brain is going to say, hey, move your hands, move these muscles, contract them so that we can catch this ball. So there's basically, there's going to be a single motor neuron here. So we've got with this axon, and at the end of the axon it has like these fingers coming out, okay? And there's these axon terminals, and it innervates, we say, so so the whole muscle contracts at the same time. So we talked about this, like you wouldn't want half your muscle to contract, you want the whole thing to. So each of those neurons have all these fingers coming off of them so that the muscle will all contract at the same time. Okay, so that was step one. We have to send that electrical signal. So once we get the electrical signal sent, okay, here we are just representing our the end of our axon terminals. Once the electrical signal gets to the end, it triggers this acetylcholine, ACH, to be released, and it crosses this neuromuscular junction. So the ACH is important because it can cross where other things can't. So this is a chemical and it can cross those junctions. And where it crosses to is it crosses from where the neuron ends, and it crosses the junction into the sarcoplasmic reticulum. And once it hits the sarcoplasmic reticulum, it then binds. So the ACH is going to bind to the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and when it does that, it causes calcium to be released. Okay, so we can see these red little dots. The calcium gets released. And calcium is going to stick to certain spots on the actin. And when it sticks to that spot, it actually opens up a binding site. So the calcium binds and opens up a spot. And it opens up a spot where that myosin head, that's really high energy with that ADP and phosphate, where it can attach. Okay, so the calcium opens up a spot. So once the calcium binds, it opens up, it changes the configuration just a little bit of the actin and opens up the binding site. Okay, and so then that myosin head that's energized, it's going to go ahead and form this thing called a cross bridge. So you can see here, we've got this high energy myosin head that attaches to the actin at that opened up spot and forms a cross bridge. Now, as soon as it does that, the power stroke happens. So that's when we're sliding that actin past the myosin, the head just like moves, and it flips forward with all that energy. When it does it, it releases the ADP and phosphate, and it has moved that actin past the myosin. Okay, and so now, the last thing that has to happen is, so if we look back here, this myosin head, it's really actually stuck to the actin. To unstick it, an ATP has to attach to the myosin head. So, if you've heard about rigor mortis, which is the stiffness in death, what really happens is you get stiff in death because you run out of actin, ATP to bind to these myosin heads, so that then your muscles get stuck in whatever position that you're in. Okay, so if we have ATP, then it binds to that head, which causes it to release, and then the ATP is going to break down into ADP and phosphate. Again, we're gonna take it from a low energy state into a high energy state, and then we just do the whole process over and over again. But that's how your muscles contract. Okay, so yesterday you should have gone through aerobic and anaerobic. If it's aerobic, so if you're doing an aerobic exercise, you're able to breathe through it. You're getting plenty of oxygen. You need oxygen to do cellular respiration. So you've got plenty of oxygen around to make that ATP in your mitochondria. If you're working out really hard, you can be in these states called anaerobic conditions. And that's like if you're working really hard and you're not getting in enough oxygen for your muscles to, for the mitochondria to make enough ATP. So typical muscles have enough ATP for just a few contractions in anaerobic conditions. You run out of ATP very quickly. So if you're in anaerobic conditions, your muscles can continue to do some work in anaerobic conditions. They use glycogen, which we've talked about before. Not only is it stored in your liver, but it's also stored in your muscles. So that gives you about a 1 minute supply of energy to move your muscles. And then the other thing that you move to is creatine phosphate, and that gives you about 15 more seconds. So that will help you out, like if you're working really hard, right, and you're not taking in quite enough oxygen, this gives you a little bit of a boost so you can continue to do your hard work. Okay, and then you should have watched the stretching video on your own. Okay, some reminders. There are papers for our field trip. We're going on a field trip on Friday. We're going to go to ONU to the cadaver lab. We plan on leaving here at 8:40 and we'll walk over. So you have to wear a coat. It is still winter. So wear a coat, wear a hat, You won't regret it. Then we'll walk over to ONU. And then we have programming for from 9:15 till about 10:45 that we will get to see the cadavers, and you can put on gloves and you can touch things in the cadavers. There'll be students there that will be helping us out. And then some of you are going to stay with Mr. Renowantz and go and tour the nursing department, which is great. If you haven't seen a nursing department, they're all fairly similar to each other. ONU has a great nursing department, and you're going to go see like their setup over there. And that will last from 11 to 12, and then you will walk back to school and have some lunch, and then you'll head back to your 6-hour class. Those of you who are not going on the tour at ONU, when our cadaver tour is done at 10:45, you will walk back to school with me. And if you have a later lunch, you'll just go right back to class. Otherwise, you'll have about 20 or so minutes to quick eat some lunch, and then you'll head back to your class at 11:30. So make sure you pack a lunch that day so that you have something to eat. Okay, so you should have picked up some papers. The sub should give you some papers that you can have your teachers fill in for the time you're out. Just look at the top of the paper. One of them is for students who are only doing the cadaver tour, and the other one is for students who are doing cadaver plus nursing because you're gone different amounts of time. So make sure you start working through that paper. If you are 18 or over, you can sign the paper on the bottom. If you are under 18, then you need to have your parent or guardian sign at the bottom, and we need those turned in as soon as possible. Hopefully by Thursday would be great. If not, then Friday before we leave. Hopefully I will be back tomorrow.